Have you ever noticed how some things feel impossibly tangled in your mind, like there is no clear way through, and yet when you finally take a step, the whole thing unravels in seconds? That is the story of your sign over and over again. You build these massive, complicated webs around things that, at their core, are surprisingly straightforward. And the wildest part is that you do not even realize you are doing it. You convince yourself that the situation is layered, that there are too many variables, that you need more time to figure it out. But the truth, and this might sting a little, is that most of what you call complicated is actually simple. You just do not want it to be simple, because simple means you have to act. Simple means there is no more room to hide behind the analysis. And that, right there, is where the real tension lives. It is not in the situation itself. It is in the gap between knowing what to do and being willing to do it. This video is going to walk you through the exact patterns where you overcomplicate your life, and more importantly, it is going to show you what is actually happening underneath all of that mental noise. If you have ever felt stuck in a loop of indecision, if you have ever spent weeks thinking about something that took 5 minutes to resolve, then every single word here was made for you. Stay until the end, because the last few sections tie everything together in a way that might genuinely shift how you move through the rest of this year. Tip 1. You think choosing between two good options is a crisis, but it is just a choice. Here is something that happens to you more often than you probably want to admit. Two perfectly fine options show up in your life, and instead of feeling grateful or excited, you freeze. You act like the universe just handed you a bomb to defuse. You weigh the pros and cons. You make mental lists. You ask people for their opinions, and then you get frustrated because their opinions do not match what you secretly wanted to hear. You lose sleep. You replay scenarios. You imagine every possible future that could unfold from each choice, and somehow every single future has a flaw. So you stay right where you are, choosing nothing, telling yourself you are being careful when really you are just afraid of picking the wrong thing. But here is what is actually simple about this. There is no wrong thing. When both options are good, the only real mistake is standing still. You are not avoiding a bad outcome by refusing to choose. You are creating one. Because while you are stuck in your head running simulations, life is moving on without you. Opportunities have expiration dates. People get tired of waiting, and the clarity you are hoping will magically appear. It almost never does. Clarity does not come from more thinking. It comes from action. You pick a direction, you walk that way, and the path becomes clear as you move. That is how it works. That is how it has always worked. The reason this feels so hard for you is that you have tied your identity to being balanced. You want to be the person who always makes the right call, who never has regrets, who can look back and say every decision was perfectly measured. But that person does not exist. Not for you, not for anyone. The pursuit of the perfect decision is what keeps you trapped, not the decisions themselves. You spend so much energy trying to avoid regret that you end up with the biggest regret of all, which is never having fully committed to anything. Think about the last time you agonized over a choice. Maybe it was something small like where to eat or what to buy. Maybe it was something bigger like whether to take a new opportunity or stay where you were comfortable. Now think about how long you spent going back and forth. Days, maybe weeks. And then think about what happened once you finally decided. It was fine, was it not? The world did not collapse. You adjusted. You moved on. And all that time you spent worrying was completely wasted energy. That is the pattern. You inflate the stakes, you freeze, you eventually choose, and then you realize it was never that serious to begin with. What would change in your life if you gave yourself permission to choose faster? Not recklessly, not without thought, but without the endless spiral of doubt that follows every fork in the road. What if you trusted yourself enough to know that even if a choice does not go perfectly, you have the ability to adapt? Because you do. You have been adapting your entire life. Every time you thought something was going to break you, you figured it out. Every time you were sure you had made a mistake, you found a way through. You are far more resilient than your indecision gives you credit for. The simplicity here is almost painful. When two options are both good, just pick one. Pick the one that excites you more. Pick the one that feels like growth. Pick the one that scares you a little, because that fear usually means it matters. And then commit. Not halfway, not with one foot out the door, but fully. Commitment is where the magic happens, not in the choosing itself, but in what you do after the choice is made. You have been treating decisions like final exams when they are really just doors. Walk through one. If the room on the other side is not what you expected, there are always more doors. but you will never find them if you keep standing in the hallway. Tip 2. You think other people's opinions should factor into every decision, but they should not. This one cuts deep because it is so woven into how you operate that you might not even see it as a problem. You ask for advice constantly, not because you do not know what you want, but because you want validation that what you want is acceptable. You want someone else to say it is okay. You want permission from the outside world to follow the direction your gut already pointed you in. And when that permission does not come, or worse, when someone disagrees with your instinct, you crumble. You second-guess yourself. You reshape your desires to fit what other people think is reasonable. And somewhere in that process, you lose the original spark that made you excited in the first place. Here is what is actually simple about this. Other people are not living your life. They do not feel what you feel. They do not carry your experiences, your dreams, your specific combination of fears and desires. When you ask someone for their opinion, they are answering based on their life, their values, their comfort zone. That does not make their input wrong, but it does make it irrelevant to your specific situation far more often than you think. You are outsourcing decisions that only you can make to people who do not have the full picture. And then you wonder why following their advice leaves you feeling hollow. The tricky part is that you are wired for connection. You genuinely care about what the people around you think, and that is a beautiful quality in many areas of life. But it becomes destructive when it bleeds into your decision-making process so deeply that you cannot separate your own voice from the chorus of everyone else's. There is a difference between seeking perspective and seeking approval. Perspective says, "Tell me what you see," and then you decide what to do with that information. Approval says, "Tell me what to do, because I do not trust myself enough to figure it out alone." You have been operating in approval mode for far too long, and it is costing you. Think about how many times you have changed course because someone raised an eyebrow. Not because they had a compelling argument, not because they showed you something you genuinely had not considered, but simply because their reaction made you uncomfortable. You felt the shift in energy, the subtle disapproval, the pause that lasted a beat too long, and you immediately started adjusting. You softened your stance. You said, "Maybe you were right, I will think about it more." And what you really meant was, "Your discomfort made me doubt myself, so I will shrink now." That is not balance. That is people-pleasing disguised as thoughtfulness. The simplest truth you need to hear is this: you already know what you want most of the time. You know it before you ask anyone. You know it in the quiet moments when no one else's voice is in your ear. The knowing is there. It has always been there. What you lack is not information or input. What you lack is the courage to honor that knowing, even when it makes other people uncomfortable. Even when it does not align with what your family expected. Even when it challenges the version of you that everyone else has gotten used to. Here is what gets really interesting. When you start making decisions from your own center, the people who genuinely care about you will adjust. They might be surprised at first. They might push back. But the ones who truly love you will respect the version of you that stands in their own truth far more than the version that bends to keep the peace. And the ones who cannot handle it, well, that tells you something important about the role you have been playing in their lives. You were not their friend or partner or family member. You were their mirror, reflecting back whatever they wanted to see. That is not a relationship. That is a performance. And you are tired of performing. You can feel it, that exhaustion that comes from holding a shape that is not yours. Let it go. The people worth keeping will still be there when you do. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. You think keeping the peace means avoiding conflict, but it actually means facing it. You have turned peacekeeping into an art form, and honestly, it is impressive in a way. You can walk into a room full of tension and somehow make everyone feel heard. You can mediate, smooth things over, and find the middle ground between two people who are ready to tear each other apart. But here is the shadow side of that gift that nobody talks about. You are so good at creating peace between others that you have completely abandoned the practice of creating peace within yourself. You avoid your own conflicts like they are landmines. You swallow your frustration. You pretend things do not bother you. You tell yourself that it is not worth the fight, that you are choosing the high road, that maturity means letting things go. But nothing is being let go. It is all being stored. What is actually simple here is something you have been overcomplicating for years. Conflict is not the enemy of peace. Avoidance is. When you refuse to address something that bothers you, you do not eliminate the tension. You just relocate it. It moves from the space between you and the other person into the space inside your own chest. It becomes that tight feeling you carry around, that low-level irritation that colors everything, that sense of being unseen or undervalued that you cannot quite explain. You think the tension went away because the conversation did not happen, but the conversation is happening just silently inside you on repeat, getting worse with every loop. You have convinced yourself that bringing up a problem will make things worse, that the other person will get defensive, that the relationship will suffer, that you will be seen as difficult or demanding, and maybe some of those things will happen momentarily, but what you are not factoring in is the cost of silence. Every time you bite your tongue to keep someone else comfortable, you teach them that your comfort does not matter. You set a precedent that says my needs are negotiable, yours are not. And over time, people stop asking how you feel because you have trained them not to. They are not being insensitive. They are following the rules you established. The most peaceful people you will ever meet are not the ones who avoid hard conversations. They are the ones who have them quickly, clearly, and with genuine care, and then move on. They do not let resentment build because they address things in real time. They do not carry grudges because they say what needs to be said when it needs to be said. That is what real peace looks like. It is not the absence of friction. It is the willingness to move through friction honestly so that what remains on the other side is genuine, not performed. You are afraid that honesty will cost you relationships, but the relationships you are protecting through silence are already compromised. They are built on an incomplete version of you, the version that always agrees, always adjusts, always says it is fine when it is not. Those relationships are not as strong as you think because they have never been tested by the full truth of who you are. The strongest connections in your life will be the ones that survive your honesty, and the ones that do not survive it were never as real as they felt. Start small if you need to. The next time someone says something that bothers you, do not laugh it off. Do not change the subject. Do not wait 3 days and then bring it up when you are already overwhelmed with built-up frustration. Just say in the moment calmly and directly, that did not sit well with me. That is it. You do not need a speech. You do not need to prepare a case. You just need to be honest in real time. And watch what happens. 9 times out of 10, the other person will respect it. They might even thank you for saying something. Because most people would rather know where they stand than be lied to with a smile. You have been underestimating the people in your life, assuming they cannot handle your truth. Give them the chance. And more importantly, give yourself the chance to be fully known. Tip 4. You think you need the perfect moment to start, but the perfect moment is a myth. This is one of the most expensive beliefs you carry, and you carry it everywhere. You want conditions to be ideal before you begin anything meaningful. You want the timing to be right, the energy to be high, the circumstances to be aligned, the stars to basically spell out a personal message that says go ahead, it is safe now. And because that kind of cosmic green light almost never shows up, you wait. You wait and you plan and you prepare and you tell yourself that you are being strategic when what you are actually being is scared. Scared that if you start before everything is perfect, the result will reflect that imperfection. Scared that people will see the rough edges. Scared that you will put yourself out there and it will not be good enough. Here is the simplicity hiding under all that fear. Done is better than perfect. Every single time. The thing you have been waiting to start, the project, the conversation, the change, the new chapter. It does not need perfect conditions. It needs you. Imperfect, uncertain, slightly nervous you. That is all it has ever needed. The perfect moment you are waiting for is not coming because it does not exist. It is a story you tell yourself to justify staying still. And staying still, as comfortable as it feels in the short term, is slowly pulling you away from the life you actually want. Think about all the things you have not started because the timing was not right. Think about the ideas you shelved because you did not feel ready. Think about the conversations you postponed because the mood was not quite there. Now imagine where you would be right now if you had just started, imperfectly, messily, without any guarantee of success. You would be further along than you are today. Maybe not where you ultimately want to be, but closer. And closer is the whole game. Life is not about giant leaps from here to there. It is about a series of imperfect steps that eventually add up to something extraordinary. The reason you chase perfection is not really about quality. It is about control. You want to control how you are perceived, how things unfold, how people react to what you create or say or do. And perfection feels like the ultimate form of control because if something is flawless, it cannot be criticized. But that is an illusion. People will have opinions regardless of how polished your work is. People will judge regardless of how carefully you present yourself. The criticism you are trying to prevent by waiting for perfection is going to happen no matter what. So you might as well stop letting it hold you hostage. There is a version of you on the other side of this pattern that is incredibly free. That version does not need everything to be lined up before they move. That version trusts the process, trusts themselves, and trusts that imperfect action will always beat perfect inaction. That version has already started the thing you are still thinking about. They started it months ago, maybe years ago, and they are living in the momentum that you keep denying yourself. The gap between you and that version is not talent. It is not resources. It is not luck. It is simply the willingness to begin before you feel ready. That is it. That is the whole difference. So whatever it is you have been putting off, whatever it is you have been telling yourself you will get to when the time is right, consider this your invitation to start today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Today. Open the document. Make the call. Have the conversation. Take the first step. It will not be perfect, and that is exactly the point. Perfection was never the goal. Progress was. And progress only happens when you move. You have spent enough time standing at the starting line waiting for permission to run. Give yourself that permission right now. No one else is going to do it for you. Tip 5. You think walking away from something means you failed, but sometimes it means you grew. There is a story you tell yourself that goes something like this. Once you commit to something, you should see it through no matter what. Loyalty, dedication, persistence. These are values you hold so tightly that they have become chains without you even realizing it. You stay in situations that have stopped serving you because leaving feels like quitting. You hold on to relationships that drain you because walking away feels like betrayal. You continue down paths that lead nowhere because turning around feels like admitting you were wrong. And so you keep going, exhausted and unfulfilled, telling yourself that endurance is the same as strength. Here is what is actually simple about this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go. Not because you are weak, not because you could not handle it, but because you have grown beyond the thing you are clinging to, and holding on is what is actually holding you back. Growth is not always about adding more. Sometimes it is about releasing what no longer fits. You would never force yourself to wear shoes that are 3 sizes too small just because they were comfortable when you first bought them. But that is exactly what you do with commitments, relationships, habits, and identities that you have outgrown. You keep squeezing into them, wincing with every step, pretending they still fit. The reason this is so hard for you specifically is that you tie your self-worth to being reliable. You want to be the person that others can count on, the one who shows up, the one who stays. And those are wonderful qualities when they are applied to things that deserve your loyalty. But not everything does. Some things you committed to were based on who you were 5 years ago, not who you are now. Some relationships you are maintaining are rooted in obligation, not genuine connection. Some goals you are chasing were set by a version of you that no longer exists. And pursuing them is not honorable. It is self-abandonment. Walking away does not erase what you built. It does not undo the effort you put in or the lessons you learned. It simply means you are choosing to redirect your energy towards something that aligns with who you are becoming instead of who you used to be. That is not failure. That is evolution. And evolution requires release. A tree does not apologize for dropping its leaves in the fall. It does not feel guilty about shedding what it no longer needs. It trusts that new growth is coming, and it makes room for it. You need to learn to trust yourself in the same way. Ask yourself honestly how much of what you are holding on to right now is there because you want it and how much is there because you are afraid of what it would mean to let it go. Fear of the unknown is powerful, and it disguises itself as loyalty, as commitment, as patience. But if you peel back those labels, what you often find underneath is simply the terror of change. The terror of not knowing what comes next. The terror of being misunderstood by people who expected you to stay the same forever. Here is what no one tells you about letting go. It hurts at first, yes. There is grief in every release, even when the release is right. But on the other side of that grief is a spaciousness you have forgotten existed. A lightness. A freedom to move in directions you could not even see before because the thing you were holding onto was blocking your view. You have been so focused on not losing what you have that you have completely ignored what you could gain. The simple truth is that you cannot grab something new if both hands are full. Put something down. It is okay. The right things will not leave just because you open your hands. And the things that do leave were meant to. Tip 6. You think saying no will make people stop loving you, but it actually makes them respect you more. Let us talk about the word that terrifies you more than almost any other. No. 2 little letters that carry the weight of the world in your mind. You have built an entire operating system around avoiding this word. You rearrange your schedule to accommodate others. You take on responsibilities that are not yours. You agree to things you have no interest in doing. And you do all of this with a smile, convincing everyone around you that you are happy to help, that you do not mind, that it is really no trouble at all. Meanwhile, inside you are screaming. You are exhausted. You are resentful. And you cannot figure out why your life feels so full and yet so empty at the same time. The simplicity you are missing is this. Every time you say yes to something you do not want, you are saying no to something you do. Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not unlimited. Every obligation you take on out of guilt or fear of judgment is an obligation that displaces something that actually matters to you. That evening you spent helping someone with a project you did not care about could have been spent on your own work. That weekend you gave up to attend an event you dreaded could have been spent recharging. That conversation you endured with someone who only calls when they need something could have been spent with someone who genuinely fills you up. You are not being generous. You are being depleted. The fear underneath this pattern is heartbreakingly simple. You believe that your value to others is based on what you do for them, not who you are. You believe that if you stop being useful, you stop being wanted. So you keep performing, keep giving, keep bending yourself into whatever shape is needed because the alternative, being loved for just existing, feels too risky to test. What if you stop doing things for people and they disappear? What if the love was never about you at all, just about what you provided? Here is the truth that might set you free. The people who would leave if you started saying no are the people who were only there for what you could give them. And losing those people, while painful in the moment, is not actually a loss. It is a correction. It is your life recalibrating to show you who is real and who is just taking advantage of your inability to set boundaries. The people who stay, the ones who respect your no, the ones who love you even when you are not being useful, those are your people. And you cannot find them while you are surrounded by people who are only there because you never say no. Practice this week. Say no to one thing. Just one. It does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be a grand declaration of independence. Just one small no. Someone asks you to do something you do not want to do, and instead of your automatic yes, you say, actually, I cannot this time. Watch what happens. Notice how the world does not end. Notice how the person moves on and figures it out without you. Notice how you feel afterward. That mixture of guilt and relief that slowly tips toward relief the more you practice. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for the people around you. Because the version of you that is constantly overextended, constantly drained, constantly running on fumes, that version does not have anything real to give. That version is operating on autopilot, going through the motions, offering a hollow version of presence that looks like caring but feels like obligation. When you protect your energy, when you say no to what drains you, you create space to say a genuine, wholehearted yes to what matters. And that genuine yes is worth more than 1,000 reluctant ones. You know this. You have just been too afraid to live it. Until now. Tip 7. You think fairness means everything should be equal, but life does not work that way. There is a belief system running in the background of your mind at all times, like software you forgot you installed. Says that things should be fair. That effort should be rewarded proportionally. That what you give should be matched by what you receive. That the universe operates on some kind of cosmic balance sheet where everything evens out eventually. And when reality does not match this belief, which is often, you feel deeply personally offended. Not angry exactly, but wounded, betrayed. Like the rules you were promised have been broken. Here is what is actually simple about this. Fairness is a concept, not a law of nature. The sun does not rise because it is fair. The rain does not fall equally on every field. Some people will work less than you and achieve more. Some people will give less than you and receive more. Some situations will demand everything from you and return almost nothing. This is not evidence that the world is broken. This is just how the world works. And the sooner you stop measuring everything against an imaginary standard of fairness, the sooner you stop suffering unnecessarily. Your obsession with fairness creates a very specific kind of pain. It is the pain of keeping score. You track what you give and what you get back with the precision of an accountant, and every imbalance registers as a slight. You remember the favors you did that were never returned. You remember the times you compromised when the other person did not. You remember the effort you put into something that was not appreciated. And you carry all of that like evidence in a case you are building but will never take to trial. Because you will never actually confront anyone with your mental ledger. You will just quietly resent them while smiling to their face. The problem with keeping score is that you are the only one playing the game. The other person has no idea you are tallying points. They are living their life, making their choices, completely unaware that every interaction is being weighed and measured in your mind. So when you finally reach your breaking point and pull away or lash out, they are genuinely confused. They did not know they were falling behind on payments in a transaction they never agreed to. Your scorekeeping is invisible to everyone but you, which means the only person it hurts is you. What would it look like to give without expecting a return? Not in a martyr way, not in a self-sacrificing way, but in a genuinely free way. What if you helped someone because it felt right, not because you expected them to help you back? What if you invested in a relationship because you valued it, not because you were calculating the return on investment? What if you stopped treating every interaction as a transaction and started treating it as an offering? That shift from transaction to offering is where your freedom lives. But it requires you to let go of the idea that the world owes you something for being good. The world does not owe you anything. And that sounds harsh, but it is actually the most liberating truth available to you. Because once you stop expecting a payoff for your kindness becomes pure. It stops being a strategy and starts being an expression of who you genuinely are. And the irony is that when you give freely without strings, without a ledger, without expectations, you end up receiving more than you ever did when you were keeping score. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because people can feel the difference between generosity that is genuine and generosity that comes with an invoice. One draws people closer, the other pushes them away slowly, silently, until one day you look around and wonder where everyone went. Tip 8. You think avoiding a decision long enough means you do not have to make it, but avoidance is a decision. This might be the most important thing you hear today, so lean in. When you refuse to make a decision, you are not pressing pause on reality. You are not buying yourself more time. You are not keeping your options open. You are making a choice. The choice to do nothing. The choice to let circumstances decide for you. The choice to hand over your power to the passage of time and whatever random outcome it delivers. And that choice, the choice of avoidance, almost always produces the worst possible result. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because a life directed by default is never as good as a life directed by intention. You have a pattern and it goes like this. Something requires a decision. You feel the weight of it. You recognize that any direction you choose will have consequences, trade-offs, unknowns. So instead of sitting with that discomfort and choosing anyway, you do something very clever. You find reasons to wait. You tell yourself you need more information. You tell yourself the timing is not right. You consult more people, do more research, think about it a little longer. And while all of that feels productive, it is actually just sophisticated procrastination dressed up as wisdom. You are not gathering information. You are gathering excuses not to act. The simplicity here is almost brutal. Not deciding is deciding. It is deciding to stay exactly where you are. It is deciding that the current situation, however unsatisfying, is preferable to the risk of change. And maybe that is true sometimes. Maybe where you are right now is genuinely where you should be. But if that were the case, you would not feel this constant low-grade anxiety about the decision you are avoiding. You would not think about it before bed. You would not bring it up with friends hoping they will make the choice for you. The fact that it occupies space in your mind is proof that something needs to shift. And the only person who can shift it is you. Consider what you are actually afraid of. It is not the decision itself. It is the finality of it. Once you choose, you close a door, and closing doors terrifies you because you can see the beauty in every option. You can see the potential in every path. You can imagine a version of your life where each choice leads to something wonderful, and choosing one means mourning the others. That is a beautiful sensitivity, truly. But it is also a prison. Because while you are busy mourning imaginary futures, you are neglecting the real one that is unfolding right now. The present moment, the one where you are alive and capable and full of potential, is slipping through your fingers while you fantasize about what could be. Here is something that might reframe this for you. Every decision, even the ones that do not work out, teaches you something. A wrong turn is not a dead end. It is information. It tells you what you do not want, what does not work, what does not feel right, and that information is invaluable for the next decision you face. The people who seem to have their lives together are not people who always make the right choice. They are people who make choices quickly, learn from them, and adjust. They treat life like a conversation, not an exam. They respond, they adapt, they keep moving. You are treating every decision like a final answer on a test that determines the rest of your life. It is not. It is just the next step. Take it. The energy you spend avoiding decisions could power entire chapters of your life. Imagine redirecting all of that mental bandwidth, all of that worry and deliberation and second-guessing, toward actually building something, toward actually showing up, toward actually being present in your life instead of hovering above it, endlessly evaluating. That is what is on the other side of this pattern. Not perfection, not certainty, but presence, engagement, the feeling of being actively involved in your own story instead of watching it happen to you from the sidelines. That is worth more than any perfect decision could ever be. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. You think you need to understand everything before you can accept it, but understanding is not a prerequisite for peace. You have an incredibly analytical mind. You want to know why things happen, how they connect, what they mean in the larger picture. And in many areas of life, that desire for understanding serves you beautifully. It makes you thoughtful, reflective, insightful. But there is a dark side to this need for understanding that you rarely acknowledge. When something happens that you cannot explain, when life delivers an experience that defies your sense of logic and order, you do not just feel confused. You feel destabilized, like the ground beneath you has cracked, like reality has betrayed some unspoken contract. And instead of accepting the mystery, you dig. You analyze. You replay. You interrogate every detail, searching for the reason, the cause, the explanation that will make everything make sense again. The simplicity you keep missing is this. Some things do not make sense. They just happen. Not everything has a reason you can identify. Not every loss has a lesson wrapped inside it. Not every hardship is building you towards something greater. Sometimes life is just hard, and the only thing to do is feel it, move through it, and keep going. Your insistence on finding meaning in everything is actually a defense mechanism. It is your way of maintaining control in a universe that is fundamentally beyond your control. If you can explain it, you can manage it. If you can understand it, you can prevent it from happening again. But that is an illusion. Understanding why something happened does not protect you from it happening again. It just gives your mind something to hold on to so the freefall does not feel so terrifying. Think about the amount of time you have spent trying to figure people out, trying to understand why someone treated you a certain way, why they said what they said, what was going on inside their head that led them to that behavior. You have spent hours, maybe days, constructing elaborate psychological profiles of people who wronged you, trying to find the logic in their cruelty or carelessness. And even when you think you have figured it out, even when you have built a theory that explains their behavior perfectly, does it actually make you feel better? Does understanding why someone hurt you undo the hurt? Almost never. The wound is still there. The pain is still there. The only thing your analysis gave you was a story about the pain, and the story is not healing. It is just thinking about the hurt in more organized detail. Acceptance does not require understanding. Read that again. You can accept something without knowing why it happened. You can make peace with a situation without figuring out every variable that led to it. You can let go of a relationship without fully comprehending what went wrong. Acceptance is not about the mind. It is about the heart. It is a decision to stop fighting reality and start working with it. And that decision can happen in an instant without any analysis at all. You just choose to stop resisting. You just choose to say, this happened, I do not know why, and I am going to move forward anyway. The reason this feels almost impossible for you is that you have equated understanding with safety. If you understand something, it cannot surprise you. If you understand someone, they cannot blindside you. But this is a cage of your own making, because in your pursuit of understanding everything, you have lost the ability to simply be in the moment with your experience. You are so busy analyzing the rain that you have forgotten how to just stand in it. You are so busy figuring out the sunset that you have forgotten how to just watch it. Your mind has become a machine that processes life instead of living it. And turning that machine off, even for a moment, feels dangerous because what if you miss something important? You will not miss anything important. The important things have a way of finding you whether you are analyzing them or not. In fact, you might notice them more clearly when you are not trying so hard to understand them, because understanding is often just a filter between you and raw experience. Remove the filter. Let life in without needing to label it first. Let people in without needing to decode them first. Let emotions in without needing to explain them first. The richness you have been searching for through analysis is actually waiting for you in the spaces where you stop analyzing and just allow yourself to feel. That is where peace lives. Not in the answers, but in the willingness to stop asking and simply be present with whatever is. Tip 10. You think balance means keeping everything at the same level, but real balance is knowing what deserves more. This is the big one, the one that sits at the center of almost every pattern we have talked about today. You have turned balance into a religion, and it is quietly destroying you. You believe that a good life means equal attention to every area, equal energy given to every person, equal time spent on every responsibility. You try to keep everything level, everything smooth, everything weighted perfectly. And the result is not harmony. The result is mediocrity. Because when you spread yourself evenly across everything, nothing gets the depth of attention it actually needs. Everything gets a thin layer of you instead of the full, concentrated version. Here is what is actually simple, and what your sign often resists hearing. Real balance is not about equality. It is about priority. It is about recognizing that some things in your life deserve more of you right now than other things, and being willing to create that imbalance intentionally. Your health might need more attention this month. Your creative project might need more energy this season. Your relationship might need more presence this week. And giving those things more does not mean you are neglecting everything else. It means you are being strategic. It means you are being honest about where the greatest need is, and you are meeting it fully instead of giving everything a watered-down version of your best. The way you currently operate is like trying to water a garden by misting the entire thing evenly. Every plant gets a few drops, but nothing gets enough to actually thrive. Meanwhile, the plants that need the most water, the ones that are wilting, the ones that are on the verge of dying, they get the same tiny amount as the ones that are perfectly healthy. That is not balance. That is neglect disguised as fairness. A good gardener knows which plants need more water and gives it to them. They do not feel guilty about it. They do not worry that the other plants will feel slighted. They understand that differential attention is what keeps the whole garden alive. You are terrified of imbalance because you associate it with chaos. In your mind, if you give more to one area, everything else will fall apart. But that is catastrophic thinking, not reality. The truth is that most areas of your life can handle a period of reduced attention while you focus elsewhere. Your friendships will survive if you are less available for a few weeks. Your work will not collapse if you take an afternoon to invest in your well-being. Your family will not disown you if you prioritize your own growth for a season. These things are far more resilient than you give them credit for. And the fear that everything will crumble the moment you shift your focus is the very thing that keeps you spread so thin that nothing in your life gets what it truly needs. Think about what would happen if you gave yourself permission to be unbalanced on purpose. What if you decided that for the next month, your primary focus would be one area of your life, and everything else would get maintenance energy? Not abandonment, just maintenance. Enough to keep things running, but not enough to prevent you from going deep somewhere that truly needs it. How would that feel? Terrifying, probably, but also exciting. Because deep down, you know exactly what area of your life is starving for your attention right now. You know what is wilting. You know what keeps you up at night. And you have been ignoring it in the name of balance because addressing it would mean admitting that everything is not fine, that your perfectly arranged life has a crack in it that needs real focus repair. Your idea of balance has become a cage that prevents you from ever going deep enough to create real change. Skimming across the surface of everything means you never truly transform anything. You maintain, you manage, you keep the plate spinning, but nothing evolves. Nothing breaks through. Nothing reaches its full potential, including you. The most powerful thing you could do right now is choose one thing, the thing that matters most, the thing you have been avoiding because it would disrupt your careful equilibrium, and pour yourself into it. Let the other plates wobble for a while. They will be fine. But the thing you have been neglecting will not be fine if you keep ignoring it. And neither will you. You have stayed with every word of this, and that tells me something important about where you are right now. You are not just casually curious. You are searching. Something in your life has reached a point where the old patterns are not working anymore, and you can feel it. You can feel the weight of all those unmade decisions, all those swallowed truths, all those times you chose comfort over growth. And the fact that you are here, listening, absorbing, means a part of you is ready to do something different. Not tomorrow. Not when the conditions are right. Now. Everything we talked about today points to one core truth. You are not as complicated as you think you are. Your needs are not complicated. Your desires are not complicated. Your path forward is not complicated. What is complicated is the web of overthinking, people-pleasing, avoidance, and perfectionism that you have wrapped around yourself over the years. And that web can be untangled. Not all at once, not overnight, but steadily, consistently, one thread at a time. Every time you make a faster decision, you pull a thread. Every time you say no without guilt, you pull a thread. Every time you choose honesty over harmony, you pull a thread. And eventually, what is left is just you. Clear, unburdened, finally free to move in the direction that your heart has been pointing you toward all along. The version of you that exists on the other side of these patterns is not someone you need to become. It is someone you need to uncover. That person is already inside you, buried under layers of conditioning and fear and other people's expectations. They have been waiting patiently for you to stop performing and start living. They have been whispering to you in the quiet moments, in the dreams you dismiss, in the instincts you override, in the desires you talk yourself out of. That version of you is not afraid of imperfection. That version does not need everyone's approval. That version knows that a messy, authentic life is worth infinitely more than a polished, empty one. And that version is closer to the surface right now than it has ever been. You can feel it. Do not let this moment pass. Do not let the clarity you are feeling right now dissolve back into your usual patterns of overthinking and delay. You have the awareness. You have the insight. The only thing left is the action. And action does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be a complete overhaul of your life. It just has to be real. One honest conversation. One boundary set. One decision made without consulting 5 other people. One step forward into the unknown, trusting that you will figure it out as you go. Because you always have and you always will. This is your moment. Not because the stars say so, not because anyone gave you permission, but because you are finally ready to stop complicating the things that are simple and start living the life that has been waiting for you all along. You have 2 options after this video. Close it and hope things shift. Or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.